Luca's gloved hand trembled slightly as he gripped his halberd. "Forgive me, Your Holiness," he whispered under his breath, "but I can't let you leave without saying goodbye." The cameras didn't catch it at first, but the world would soon see what one humble guard dared to do, defying centuries of protocol in front of the entire Vatican. The Vatican had never seen such a funeral. Dignitaries from around the world, cardinals in crimson robes, nuns in quiet tears, all gathered beneath the towering columns of St. Peter's Basilica. The air carried the scent of incense and candle wax, mingling with the faint echo of Latin hymns. To most, this was just another grand ceremony, but to Luca, it was the last chapter of a personal story that began years ago. He had joined the Swiss Guard at 21, proud but uncertain. His father, a soldier, had always told him, "Discipline before emotion, son. The Vatican is not a place for feelings." And Luca had followed that advice, serving faithfully, silently, invisibly, until the day Pope Francis noticed him. It was a rainy afternoon 3 years earlier. Luca had been standing guard near the Apostolic Palace, drenched, ignored, and exhausted. The Pope, walking by with his aide, had stopped suddenly. "You must be freezing," he said, in that gentle, unmistakable tone. "Have they given you a coat?" Luca, startled, tried to maintain his composure. "Holy Father, I'm fine, sir. It's my duty." But the Pope had smiled faintly. "Even duty has a heart, my son. Remember that." That sentence never left him. Even duty has a heart. Now, years later, that same Pope lay before him, silent, still, and surrounded by ceremonial perfection. But Luca couldn't ignore the knot in his chest. He wasn't just guarding the Pope's body. He was saying goodbye to the man who had seen his humanity beneath the uniform. The ceremony began. The choir's solemn voices filled the square. Cameras panned across the sea of faces, diplomats, royals, priests, each wearing the same solemn expression. Luca tried to hold his composure, but when the coffin was placed down for the final blessing, something inside him broke. He remembered the Pope's laugh, the way he'd once patted Luca's shoulder and said, "The world remembers kindness more than commands." And then he moved. The entire line of guards stood frozen as Luca stepped forward, breaking formation. His boots clicked against the marble floor, echoing across the courtyard. Every camera turned toward him. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The commander's voice cut through the air. "Guard, return to position." But Luca didn't stop. Slowly, reverently, he knelt beside the coffin. His armor creaked as he removed his white glove and placed his bare hand upon the wooden lid. From his pocket, he took out a small silver cross, dull from years of wear. It wasn't regulation issue. It was his mother's, a gift she'd given him before he left home. He laid it gently atop the coffin. "For your last trip," he whispered. For a moment, there was nothing, no music, no orders, no movement. Just silence. Even the rain seemed to hold its breath. Cardinals exchanged uneasy glances. The commander's face turned pale with fury. But among the crowd, something unexpected happened. A murmur of emotion spread. A few priests bowed their heads. One camera zoomed in on Luca's trembling hand, resting on the cross. And then, something miraculous. The sunlight broke through the clouds. A single beam of golden light illuminated the coffin and Luca's hand. The crowd gasped. Even those who didn't believe in miracles felt something shift in that instant. Later, Luca would be reprimanded. "You broke centuries of discipline," the commander barked. "You humiliated the guard in front of the world." But Luca didn't argue. He simply stood there, eyes steady, voice calm. "With respect, sir," he said. "I didn't dishonor the guard. I honored the man who taught me what guarding truly means." Word spread quickly. Within hours, the clip went viral. The kneeling guard became a global symbol of devotion. Some called it rebellion. Others called it reverence. But the Vatican's response came quietly. A sealed letter arrived at the Swiss Guard's quarters, addressed to Luca. No name, no title, just a signature. Franciscus. Inside was a note written before the Pope's passing. "If ever my farewell feels too grand, too distant, let one humble act remind them that love does not need permission." Luca's eyes filled with tears. The man he had guarded had already forgiven him, even encouraged the act that would define him. Weeks later, the Swiss Guard continued their silent watch. Tourists came and went, snapping photos of the colorful uniforms and the stern faces. But among them, one guard stood differently. Not less disciplined, but more human. Every night, before his shift, Luca touched the space where his mother's cross had once hung. He didn't need to carry it anymore. It rested now with the man who taught him that faith and duty were never meant to be separate. The Vatican eventually released an official statement, soft and poetic. Protocol may command silence, but the heart sometimes commands tribute. And so, the moment that could have ended Luca's career instead transformed him into a quiet legend, not for his defiance, but for his love. The next time the Pope's procession passed through St. Peter's Square, people noticed something new. Every Swiss guard now wore a small silver cross beneath their armor, invisible to the eye, but heavy with meaning. And among them, Luca marched with steady grace, his head held high. Sometimes, the truest salute isn't in how still you stand, but in how deeply you feel. As the sun set over the Vatican, the bells tolled softly, not in mourning, but in memory. And somewhere deep inside those ancient walls, young guard,